The shocking truth behind Israel and Judah's brutal conflict, God's tribes at war, explained now. A storm was brewing in the ancient lands of Israel and Judah, a tempest fueled by centuries of hatred and betrayal. A conflict so intense, so brutal, that it made the most epic battles in history look like child's play. This wasn't just a war of armies, it was a war of faith and blood, divine retribution written into the very fabric of the earth. The ground itself seemed to shake in sorrow, as the echoes of conflict resonated through time. In the beginning, it was all about a land promised to God's chosen people. But with each broken covenant, the tribes divided in shadows, creating rifts filled with distrust. They whispered about curses and blessings, mountains and valleys becoming silent witnesses to the strife. It was no way for God's chosen to act, yet there they stood, swords raised, eyes filled with rage. The surprise attacks were swift, like lightning strikes in the dark, you never knew where they'd come from next. Fear hung heavy in the air, thick as the dust kicked up by the soldiers' boots. And then, there were rumors, the rumors. Mysterious sightings of prophets declaring doom, ancient artifacts unearthed that supposedly held the power to sway the gods. Every discovery unfurled new layers of tension and wonder. Some said they found the pieces of the Ark of the Covenant, sparkling gold reclaimed from the ashes of betrayal. People gasped at its implications. Did these treasures still contain divine power? What sorts of old curses might be unleashed? As the tension simmered, tempers flared, and the cries of the wounded pierced the night. Friends turned enemies in the blink of an eye, leaving families torn apart and friendships shattered. And in the midst of all this chaos, a voice broke through the clamor, a voice that spoke of hope and reconciliation. But could peace ever bloom in such barren soil? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference, let's connect. The notion of betrayal hung over the land like a dark cloud, but one thing was clear: this wasn't the end. The stage was set for a confrontation that would rip through history, a looming climax where everything would be brought to a head. Could the tribes put aside their differences, or was another round of bloodshed destined to play out? The answers lay shrouded in the mist of wrath and redemption, echoing through the ages, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover the truth. Out in the fields of Judah, the winds howled like lost souls, carrying with them the rancid stench of betrayal. It felt as if the land itself could sense what was coming, the tension prickling like static electricity in the air. Rumors churned of warriors training in secret, of alliances forged in the dark shadows of ancient trees where only the stars could bear witness. The villagers huddled together, eyes wide with fear, murmuring about what the dawn would bring. Then came the day that would remain etched in the annals of history. As dawn broke, infusing the horizon with a bloody hue, the sky erupted in relentless cries. The tribes of Israel and Judah, armed and angered, faced each other across the valley, a picturesque battlefield marred by looming anticipation. Children watched with wide eyes, clutching their mothers' skirts, the pulse of dread echoing in their tiny hearts. Suddenly, the silence shattered like glass, the thunder of hooves, the clash of steel. Out of nowhere, the Israelites surged forward, their faces tight with rage, and a spray of arrows arched across the sky like shooting stars, finding their marks with unerring accuracy. In response, the defenders of Judah barked orders, their voices rising above the din, their hearts pounding with unyielding determination. But behind the chaos, shadows flickered. A figure cloaked in rags moved through the lines of battle unnoticed. This was Eliab, a prophet with troubled eyes, burdened with secrets that could alter the fate of both tribes. He paused, breath hitching, sensing something ominous brewing just beyond the clamor. Sensing that a darkness deeper than hatred had settled over the duel. It wasn't merely bloodthirst, it was something raw and ancient, a curse bringing retribution long overdue. Eliab raised his arms, desperate to be heard above the din, calling for peace, for reason to pierce the madness. "Brothers! What blood are we spilling?" he shouted, voice cracking, a lump forming in his throat. "The land bleeds, but it's our hearts that must mend." Yet, his pleas fell onto deaf ears as men turned on men, friends became shadows of their former selves, lost within the chaos of the impending doom. Each clang of metal, each cry of rage seemed to scream the same message: this division would not yield without a payment of blood. And then, amidst the chaos, something extraordinary happened. A young boy, no more than 10, stood between the warring factions, holding a golden artifact, a glimmering shard of the Ark, unearthed from the sands of conflict. The vessel pulsed with a strange energy, the air shimmering around it, compelling the combatants to halt, their eyes drawn to the beacon of history that held their very fate. "Let this be a sign," the boy cried, voice steady amidst the storm brewing around him. "A relic of our faith, a reminder of our unity." But the fierce pounding of hearts and the whispers of the past stirred dense hatred. Would this moment of hope stand? Who among them had the courage to shift the tide, to stand against the centuries of enmity? Every heart in that chaotic battlefield yearned for resolution, yet recognized the truth: silver and gold could entrap just as easily as they could liberate. As Eliab's eyes darted between the boy and the raging combatants, realization struck him. The cycles of violence and despair were bound tightly to their unwillingness to let go, to forgive. But the question gnawed at him: could they truly break free from the chains of their past? Would they seize this fleeting chance to rewrite their story? As the conflict hung poised on the razor's edge, the boy clutched the shard tighter, its glow illuminating something deeper, a path hidden among the shadows, yet only visible through unity. How far would they go to grasp it? The answer lingered in the drama of the battlefield, begging to be unraveled. A choice, one that could either shatter or heal, loomed on the horizon, and as the first particles of dawn began to settle, it became clear: the next moment could change everything or end it all. Would they embrace their fate together, or would the darkness pull them back into the chaos they had fought so hard to escape? The ground trembled under the fracas of war, noise drowning out Eliab's desperate call to unity. The boy held the shard high, its golden glow flickering eerily against the backdrop of blood and fury. Eyes widened, some combatants' swords hesitated, but hatred coursed through many like a poison, urging them to strike. On one side, a fierce warrior named Adriel took a step forward, face twisted in disdain. "Fool! Do you think a shard will erase generations of bloodshed? Put down your toy." His voice boomed, punctuated by the clash of steel against steel. Shouts of agreement surged from the Israelites, small pockets of men praying for something, anything to pull them from the brink of total chaos. Eliab felt a knot tightening in his chest. This was not just a battle, it was a revelation, or rather, a reckoning. He moved through the throng, pushing against bodies and confusion, losing himself in the chaotic rhythm of battle and anger. Somewhere inside, old wounds festered. This fractiousness, these palpable animosities, they were born not of recent events, but of deep historical grudges that cracked and bled anew every time the sun rose over Jerusalem. As Eliab continued his approach toward the boy, something struck him like a slap. A thunderous crash echoed in the distance. The ripple of fear spread through the soldiers, their eyes momentarily distracted. Adriel, now prone to self-doubt, turned his gaze point-blank at Eliab. For just a moment, doubt flickered in his eyes. What madness has taken hold of us? Do we fight against a miracle? Eliab seized the moment. Adriel! This is your chance. Set down your weapon and save the souls of our people. Let us not choose this day to die in violence and shame. But his words became lost, swallowed by the roar of battle once more and almost drowned out by the angry cries of men. Then, a deafening rumble rolled across the battlefield, growing in intensity until it became almost unbearable. A dark cloud loomed overhead, swirling ominously, a storm summoned by the fury of the conflict below. It seemed to charge the air with electricity, and the boy, still clutching the shard, began to tremble at the portent. "Do you feel it?" whispered the boy, eyes wide with the shock of realization. It wants us to remember. The young warrior in Adriel's ranks, Simon, who had always looked up to him, felt compelled to speak. Adriel. What if the boy is right? What if existing as we've done is the real madness? This reverberation prompted the crack in Adriel's earlier resolve to widen further. What can I do? He murmured. Everything changes with one choice, one heart willing to forgive, the boy called out, his small voice cutting through the din of battle. From somewhere, the whispers of despair faded into the dusk, replaced by the haunting lullaby of lost hopes and untold stories, forcing men to grapple with their own conscience, and the memories of shattered families. For the first time, Eliab sensed the possibility of breaking through that long-held hatred. And suddenly, one soldier dropped his sword, caught in the crosshairs of fate. His act rippled like a pebble in still water, stirring something dormant in all the hearts watching. Fear wrestled with longing for peace, but it was over, with darkness still looming, choices hung suspended like a spider's web, waiting to be plucked. Would they grasp this chance to transform the tide, or would despair snatch it away before it had the chance to bloom? As the first raindrops of the impending storm began to splatter on the battleground, a shiver ran through the assembly. Shadows deepened, and the earth seemed to sigh with ancient grief. There was a danger foreboding more perilous than the swords clashing before them. Hope tangled with dread as they all awaited the verdict tied to their collective reckoning. The clouds churned dangerously. Was this a sign of retribution, or perhaps a new beginning? They didn't yet know what awaited them on the other side of the storm. But something whispered through the winds of change. What awaited them in the heart of that tempest? The rain fell in heavy sheets, turning the ground slick and treacherous, washing away the blood-stained remnants of enmity, yet it seemed to amplify the chaos around them. Eliab's heart raced as he watched the soldiers grapple with their choices amidst the relentless downpour. The fighting had slowed, as if the storm itself sought to intervene, to drown out the cries for vengeance with its mournful melody. Get back! Adriel's voice bellowed, his sword raised high, though it wavered slightly, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his grim features. Tension twisted around them like the tendrils of the looming storm. Every man seemed to hold his breath, waiting for someone to make the next move, to lead them either further into darkness or toward a glimmer of hope. Eliab pressed harder into the throng, the shard still burning brightly in the boy's hand, illuminating faces twisted in confusion and rage. It glowed with a fierce golden light that seemed to challenge the darkness above. This could be our last chance. He shouted, urgency lacing his words. If you choose to stand and fight today, what then? More blood. More hatred. Simon stepped closer to Adriel, gesturing frantically. He's right. We know nothing but pain. Our children, our families, they won't survive this senseless battle. His eyes darted through the sea of soldiers, searching for understanding among them. Fools! Adriel barked, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction. The rage within him flickered uncertainly. For every man who remained stubborn, more began to lower their weapons, a spark of hope igniting within their hearts. In that pivotal moment, the boy with the shard lifted it higher. Look, see what binds us. This shard holds more than just light, it carries our history, our regrets, and our potential. His voice cracked, filled with such fervor that some around him took a hesitant step forward. With each passing second, more swords were dropped, clattering ominously on the ground. A hush fell. The rain beat down in torrents, creating a symphony that mirrored the emotions swirling in every man's heart. The storm felt alive, a force that threatened to consume them all or wash away their burdens. Adriel's fists clenched. An internal battle raged as the surge of doubt battled against years of pride and pain. Tears mingled with rain, and he couldn't tell whose were whose. But what will happen to us? What of our honor? The question hung heavy, stifling the air around them. Eliab stepped closer, sensing the fragments of rebellion in Adriel's heart. Honor is not found in vengeance, but in the courage to forgive. It's time for us to rewrite our story. As if on cue, a brilliant flash of lightning split the sky, momentarily blinding all. The crack that followed echoed like the roar of 1,000 angry warriors. And then, from the depths of dark thunderclouds, a strange shape emerged, a silhouette against the storm, enormous and ethereal, flickering between worlds, gasps of awe rippled through the ranks. It towered over them, a tide of full-bodied light dancing in the gusts of wind, arms outstretched in what appeared to be both a blessing and a warning. Fear and wonder battled within the hearts of the warriors below. Eliab's heart raced as he realized, this was more than just a supernatural occurrence. This was a moment of judgment, perhaps even a call to action. Were they ready to respond? With every pair of eyes drawn upward, the burden of choice loomed ever larger, and just like that, a whisper of fear swept through the crowd. What if this was the wrath of their ancestors, come to claim those unwilling to let go? Before they could grasp the enormity of what stood before them, the light flickered, and for a fleeting moment, Eliab caught a glimpse of what lay behind it. Old faces, buried deep in their memories, forgotten stories filled with sorrow, yearning, and an acknowledgement of their intertwined lives. The rain intensified, and Eliab knew the shifting tides of fate were upon them. Would they heed the call to transformation, or allow the fear of the past to drag them further into darkness? As the silhouette lingered, shimmering against the pulse of storm and turmoil, hope clashed violently with dread. A decision awaited them, a pivotal moment on which their very fates hung. Eliab's voice rose above the storm. What will it be? Life together? Or death forever torn apart? Before the crowd could respond, the sky splintered with a crack louder than thunder, shattering the tension and leaving them all staring breathless into the chaos. What new revelations would dawn when the storm finally passed? The silence that followed the thunder was deafening. Eliab felt the weight of countless eyes bearing down on him, the tension thick like the rain-soaked air. For a split second, it was as if time held its breath, the world around them suspended in a fragile balance between hope and despair. Then came the murmur, a soft wave rolling through the ranks of soldiers, growing louder, building like a swell of impending storm. What do we choose? What should we become? Questions hung in the air, echoing the turmoil in their hearts. Eliab's plea resounded in their minds. Adriel's sword clattered to the ground, the metallic ring echoing as if marking some pivotal turn in fate. His shoulders sagged, the weight of his decisions visible in his weary stance. He was no longer just a warrior, he was a man confronting the ghosts of the past. Forgiveness. Is that even possible? His voice wavered, struggling against the dissonance of what he had always known. Eliab stepped forward, drawing the attention of every soul present. Yes, it is. It starts here, with us. We cannot continue this cycle. We must learn to forgive. A soldier near the front dropped his spear, his face etched with confusion yet illuminated by a flicker of hope. What if they strike us again? What if this is merely an illusion? The doubt was palpable, but so was the yearning for something better. Adriel raised his gaze, finally looking past the pain. We cannot fear the unknown more than we fear our own past. This was a shift, a crack in the armor of resentment that had held them captive for so long. The glowing shard pulsed in Eliab's hand, radiating warmth and golden light, pushing back against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. It was as if the shard sought to share its energy, offering an invitation to choose. Suddenly, the immense silhouette above them began to shift. The figure's arms moved gracefully, beckoning them, as if trying to guide their wavering hearts. Each pulse of light became a heartbeat, rhythmic and insistent, echoing their collective emotions. Rise, people of this land. The figure seemed to whisper through the thunder's roar. Awaken to your shared destiny, to the truth that lies buried under your anger and sorrow. What you seek is within each of you. Gasps arose, faces turning pale as some looked towards what they hoped was salvation, while others scanned the shadows, still clinging to fear. Eliab felt the tension crackle in the air. This was the moment. They could either rise together or falter and remain divided. Do you see? He urged, desperation fueling his voice. Unity is our strongest weapon. Not swords or shields, but our willingness to stand together. As if summoned by their collective will, the rain suddenly paused for a mere instant, and the clouds parted, unveiling a sliver of a brilliant sun above them. The sight struck a chord, a symbol of hope breaking through despair. But just as quickly, the clouds churned violently, blocking the light once more. A loud rumble approached from afar, and Eliab's heart sank. There was more than just the storm, lurking in the shadows. A danger not yet revealed. "What is that?" Simon gasped, pointing towards the horizon. A dark cloud, larger than before, began to billow, swirling ominously. It was a sight that sent shivers down their spines. Eliab squinted, his pulse quickening. "It can't be." The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end as he recognized the shape. From the depths of that darkness, a figure loomed larger, more menacing than the ethereal silhouette above them, a familiar face twisted by fury and grief, a chilling reminder of the bloodshed that once raged between them. As it drew closer, the divide in their hearts felt wider. Would they cling to their past, or would this new threat force them to unite? The shimmering light above flickered once more, caught in a tug-of-war against the gathering darkness, revealing that the final choice lay not just in their decisions of the moment, but in what they were willing to fight for going forward. Are we ready to face the nightmare hour? Choices created. With this, the storm resumed its violent cry, leaving a question hanging in the air. Would they rise together against the old demons, or would they let history repeat itself, plunging into chaos once more? Eliab's heart raced as the dark figure advanced from the storm, simmering with resentment. Each step echoed like thunder, a chilling harbinger of the conflict he thought they might escape. Those watching felt a collective intake of breath, fear pooling in their throats. "Stand firm!" Eliab shouted, though his voice wobbled under the weight of dread. "This is what we face. We either battle him or we battle ourselves." Adriel's brow furrowed, his hand trembling on the hilt of his sword. "It's one of us, Eliab. One of our own." His revelation sliced through the tension as the figure drew near, and all eyes turned to the emerging visage, recognition crawling into their expressions. "Joram!" Someone cried out, terror lacing their voice. "What have they done to you?" Joram's face had once been familiar, now twisted with rage and desperation. His once gentle eyes glowed with a fierce, unnatural light. The darkness swirled around him like a cloak of shadows, curling and biting at the air, tainting it with a bitter chill. "What choice do you have?" Joram spat, his voice raw and guttural, echoing like death's whisper. "You've forsaken me. You've abandoned our kin. I am your past, your judgment." The soldiers wavered, uncertainty gripping them like an iron fist. Eliab felt his own legs shake beneath him. This confrontation was inevitable, but its brutality unsettled him. The past had returned, and its thirst for vengeance was palpable. "Joram, listen." Eliab tried, voice cracking. "We can change the way things are. We can choose forgiveness." But Joram simply howled in laughter, raw and tormented. "Your chance was squandered the moment you chose to divide. Look around you. Look at your brothers forever marked by your choices." As he spoke, the shadows danced with his every word, and Eliab's mind spun. Memories flooded in broken friendships, families torn apart in skirmishes, a legacy of pain. Through the chaos of emotions, hope glimmered. "No. We can rewrite our story. I know there's more to you than this." Eliab shouted, urgency lacing every syllable. "You're not only a symbol of our past, you can be a part of our future." For a brief moment, the shadows flickered, and Eliab thought he saw a flicker of the old Joram, the one who had laughed with them around the fire, the one who had shared dreams, the one who had fought for his brothers. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Joram lunged forward, shadows coiling around him like serpents. "You think you can bring me back? I am the embodiment of what you've done." With a swift motion, he thrust his hand into the dark clouds. The air crackled and shard-like bolts shot forth, lighting everything in a feral glow. Soldiers shrieked as fear enveloped them. "Now face me. I am your reckoning." Eliab felt a momentous burden on his shoulders. "No, Joram. You don't have to be our demise. The reply came in a guttural roar as the energy swirled between them, chaotic and explosive. Eliab could feel the tension, it thickened, crackling with the combined energies of anger and defiance. Should he stand alone, or would others take his side? In that moment, Eliab realized they were at a precipice of choice. If they did not respond with unwavering strength, darkness would indeed swallow them whole. Yet, just when resolve began to gather, a flicker of light darted through the shadows. The shard pulsed wildly in Eliab's grasp, a final beacon amidst chaos. Now, he commanded. Let the light unite us. But Joram unleashed his rage, and the storm roared back in response, seemingly in answer to the silent cries of history. Eliab clutched the shard, heart hammering as the clash loomed. Power surged in waves, the embodiment of their fears intertwined with the chance for redemption, a battle not merely against Joram, but within themselves. Will you fight for this chance? He called, voice rising above the tumult. The answer was yet to come, but the clash of fate was upon them, and choices were bound to spill into a flood of fury or a cascade of unity. As Eliab faced the tempest unleashed, a thought gripped him: if they fell, would it mark the end of their stories or merely the beginning? The air crackled with tension, a symphony of uncertainty swirling as Joram advanced. Shadows wrapped around him, their presence a dark reminder of the brothers they had lost, dreams shattered. Eliab steadied himself, gripping the shard tighter, feeling its warmth pulse against his palm. He stared into Joram's fierce gaze, searching for the remnants of the man he once called friend. This isn't who you are. Eliab's voice cut through the chaos, desperation lending it strength. Who I am. Joram sneered, the shadows thrumming at his command. I am the reckoning. I am what you've turned me into. With a swift gesture, he unleashed a wave of dark energy that surged toward the group, twisting like a serpent intent on destruction. Now! Eliab shouted, desperate urgency flooding his veins. Protect each other. Together. He could feel the fear gnawing at his heart, but beneath it lay a stubborn flicker of hope. As the soldiers rallied, forming a desperate line against the encroaching darkness, Eliab glimpsed hesitation in their faces. Would they push through, or let fear consume them? Suddenly, a voice cut through the tension. Adriel stepped forward, a flicker of determination igniting in his eyes. Eliab's right. We are stronger together. We cannot let Joram become the monster he believes he is. His words ignited something within the crowd. One by one, soldiers gripped their weapons tighter, stepping forward into the fray. They stood shoulder to shoulder, united against the darkness threatening to envelop them. But the moment of unity ignited Joram's fury. He let out a penetrating roar, extending his arms wide as shadows consumed him, wrapping around like a storm gone wild. You think your bonds can save you? You are all chained to your past. I will tear you apart. With a violent thrust of his arm, the ground trembled beneath them. Jagged fissures erupted, creating rifts that split the earth and sent bursts of energy spiraling outward. Panic erupted in the ranks, and Eliab saw his comrade stumble, their resolve wavering. Stand your ground. He bellowed, channeling the shard of light, its glow casting a protective ring around them. He stepped closer to Joram, willing himself to feel the connection they once shared. This is not the end. You don't have to go this route. Joram's expression flickered for the briefest moment, confusion crossing his features. Was there still a glimmer of hope buried within the darkness? Eliab grasped at that flicker, a rope thrown to a drowning man. We can pull each other back from the edge. We are brothers. Remember who you are. Enough. Joram shrieked, shaking off Eliab's words like flies. The shadows coiled tighter, his roar echoing through the storm, unleashing blasts of energy aimed at Eliab and his men. They scattered, barely dodging the searing darkness that whirled around them. Fear tightened like a noose. Eliab saw Adriel stagger but quickly regained his footing. We need to fight, Eliab. We can't let this consume us. His voice rang with a fierce clarity, awakening Eliab's determination. Could they really face this shadow of their past together? Now. Together. Fight. Eliab roared, summoning the last reserves of strength within him. Heart pounding and pulse racing, he raised the shard, calling to its light to pierce through the darkness. The energy crackled, creating ripples that surged through his comrades. As they faced Joram, shadows continued to crumble and retreat before the rising light, but the path forward was fraught with peril. Each soldier stood at a crossroads, gazing into the abyss, the choice between fear and unity hanging like a pendulum above them. In that moment, Eliab felt the weight of destiny pressing upon him. The flicker of hope, the call to arms. Would it be enough? Could they uplift each other from the unseen bonds of rage and despair, or was this confrontation destined to end in a storm of chaos? And deep within the storm, a darker force stirred. It wasn't just Joram they faced. A new layer of darkness awaited, eager to consume them. What lay hidden in that darkness, waiting for the moment to strike? Eliab's heart raced as the shadows twisted violently around Joram, reflecting a chaos that churned within them all. Glimpses of the man he once knew flickered in Joram's features, but the darkness relentlessly clawed at his reason, a thief of past connections and memories. Was it truly too late? No. Eliab shouted, voice straining against the silence that followed Joram's roar. You're more than this. We fought together. We laughed together. Each word felt like a desperate plea, like throwing a lifeline into a tempest. Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracked open wider, revealing an abyss that threatened to swallow everything. The rumble beneath their feet resonated deeply within Eliab's chest, a primal sound that spoke of long-buried fears. Soldiers stumbled, full of uncertainty. Their gazes remained locked on the maelstrom of darkness that was once their friend. Eliab responded with instinct. He hurled the shard forward, sending out a beam of light. It shot toward Joram, illuminating the shadows that writhed and bubbled like liquid night. We are your family. He shouted again, as the piercing light shot like a comet through the darkness. Then came the heartbeat of something larger. From the depths, a guttural voice rose up, echoing in mockery. Family? You think your bonds mean anything? I will tear them apart. I will expose the truth you all hide. The word slithered through the air, cold and unforgiving, slicing through their moment of hope. At that moment, a shadow surged forward, morphed from Joram's own anger, a living entity born from his darkest thoughts. It lunged toward the group, hungry, fierce. Eliab flinched but stood firm. He couldn't let fear rumble through him now. Adriel. Eliab called, raising the shard higher. Channel your strength. Focus with me. They pressed together, two souls striving for a common goal amidst overwhelming dread. Adriel nodded and raised his sword, its blade shimmering beside Eliab's shard. Together. He echoed. They could feel a different energy forming between them, flickering like a fire just beginning to spark in the cold night. As the darkness swelled, soldiers braced themselves, forging a wall of determination. They could sense the air growing thick, almost magnetic, as the shadow sought paths of escape and entrance into their hearts. A deafening silence fell, filled with the silent breaths of a dozen warriors making a stand. And then the strange, spine-chilling laughter echoed around them. You don't even know what awaits you. It was a howling chorus of voices, weaving through the space with sinister delight, teasing them with visions of despair and ruin. Push it back. Eliab shouted, fighting against the suffocating weight in his chest. We can face it. We can break free. But the shadows spoke again, revealing twisted truths, extending unseen fingers towards their deepest vulnerabilities. You see the bonds he keeps like chains they are. He'll become a monster, a puppet. And you will witness your own ruin. Watching Joram uncoil further, Eliab felt small slivers of doubt dig into his spirit. Were they truly brothers? Or had that bond fallen victim to the darkness they all carried? In a moment of clarity, Eliab shot forward, pressing against the stunning force of shadows. The pain coursed through him but ignited his spirit further. Joram! He cried, remember us. Remember who you were. We can help you fight. But the void around them crackled with new energy, rumbling ominously. It seemed no mere shadows and words bore down on them. Something more ancient stirred in the depths, a force amplified by the hopes and fears of every soldier, and then a howl erupted, a scream that froze the air around them and echoed with pain. Joram's face twisted. Anguish fought against the rage that defined him. "Bring him back," Adriel urged, voice trembling but unwavering. They needed to fight not just the shadows, but the truth lurking in the depths. Could they hold their ground against the rising tide of a darkness deeper than Joram alone? If they reached him, could they rescue a fractured soul, or were they about to unleash an even greater monster? As the shadows warped, closing in with fury, Eliab sensed that this climax held secrets in its grasp, secrets that could shatter their newfound hope or forge them anew. What unknown depths of darkness were they truly facing? A deafening roar shattered the silence that flowed like a river around them. The ground trembled as from the precipice below, smoke and darkness writhed like angry serpents. Eliab staggered backward, barely steadying himself as he felt the heat of the abyss lick at his skin. The shadows were no longer just Joram's, they were a living, breathing entity seeking to consume the very essence of their unity. "Eliab!" Adriel shouted, his voice strained, trying to cut through the chaos. "We need to focus. Don't let him slip away." With every breath, Eliab fought back against the panic clawing at him. Joram's face flickered, in his mind flashes of laughter, loyalty, and warmth. They had shared dreams of brighter days. Now, those memories felt like shards of glass in his heart, taunting him. Would Joram's light drown in a tide of despair? "Joram!" He called again, pushing through the weight of despair like a shield. "Fight it. Remember the brother you are." A wrenching scream pierced through the cacophony as Joram struggled within his dark cocoon. Eliab could almost see the man he once knew writhing in anguish, fighting against the call of the sinister shadows. It was a battle between despair and desperately clung to hope. He reached into the tiny glimmer of light he felt within him, channeling it into a radiant beam that shot toward Joram. Just as the light began to wrap around Joram's form, the darkness responded. It curled and snapped with seething anger, countering the light, deflecting it like a wave crashing against an unyielding shore. "It does not matter how bright you shine, Eliab." The guttural voice thundered, its echoes cascading dangerously around them. "You are all part of my creation now. He will serve me." "No!" Adriel screamed, raising his sword. Its blade shone like a beacon, sharp and determined. "We refuse to let you take him. We're not leaving without our brother." Eliab felt a surge of strength alongside Adriel, and they pushed forward, side by side, forging an unbreakable bond in the heat of their urgency. The soldiers, inspired, followed suit, forming a circle around Eliab and Adriel. They were not just fighting for Joram, they were fighting for their very souls, their freedom, the essence of everything they believed in. As the shadows recoiled, snarling in disarray, the ground below them shuddered violently. Eliab felt the abyss's pull threaten to swallow them whole, but their united force held. A feeling of undeniable power surged through the air between them, creating a shield of light around their small group, but Joram's own scream began to rise in a mix of rage and despair, breaking through the cacophony. "Eliab! Adriel!" The desperation gripped Eliab, snaking into his gut. Joram's voice trembled as if he were caught in a powerful storm, pulling him in two different directions. Eliab could see him, his shape barely discernible through the dark tendrils. "Help me!" Joram's voice sounded like it was being choked, gasping for air, caught between the horrifying pull of darkness and the light they were fighting to uphold. "Hold on, brother. We're right here." Eliab cried, desperation sweeping over him. The laughter of the darkness returned, mocking them. "How sweet! Brothers, united to fall together. But what will happen when the light goes out and you face the truth about what he really is?" Eliab's heart raced. What truth could be more terrifying than losing Joram to the shadows? The ground beneath their feet groaned as new fissures began to crack, snaking through the earth like dark veins. Fear clawed at him. Push through. Adriel yelled, his voice rising above the sinister laughter. Together we stand. There's still hope. Eliab closed his eyes and summoned every memory of Joram he could hold tightly. They had been warriors. Friends. Brothers. There had to be a way to reignite that bond. But as he opened his eyes, he looked into the pitch-black darkness swirling before them. His resolve tightened. Together. He shouted again. We will not let our brother become a monster. Yet in the chaos, a new chill swept through the air, fresh and unmistakable. Something deeper, more profound, was rising from the pit, darker than the shadows, more ancient than fear. What was this truth they were being drawn toward, and could this battle truly decide their fates? As the ground crumbled further, Eliab realized they were not just fighting for one man. They were on the brink of unleashing something far greater. What terror lurked beneath the shadows, waiting for its moment to strike? The storm raged around them, a tempest of uncertainty and despair. Eliab felt the lightning pulse within him as Joram's anguished form twisted in the shadows. He could see the flicker of the man he once knew, hidden beneath layers of grief and rage. Fight it, Joram. Eliab shouted, desperation clawing at his throat. You're stronger than this. Adriel stepped closer, his sword raised high, its blade gleaming defiantly against the darkness. We're with you. Remember the laughter we shared. Remember the dreams of peace. You are not lost to us. But Joram howled in fury, shadows swirling like venomous serpents. Dreams? You dare speak of dreams while I am cast into this abyss? You've pushed me into the darkness, and now I will be your reckoning. The shadows surged forward, an overwhelming force that threatened to consume them all. Eliab's heart raced as he clutched the shard, its golden glow flickering under the mounting pressure. Together. He cried out, a fire igniting in his chest. We need to stand united, not just against Joram but against what lies within us, all the hatred, the betrayal. All around him, a wave of uncertainty rippled through the ranks, some soldiers faltering, fear gripping their hearts. But then, something beautiful transpired, a trickle of defiance. One brave warrior stepped forward, dropping his weapon into the mud. I choose to fight for our brother. He declared, his voice rising above the storm. One by one, others began to lower their swords and shields, joining hands as their resolve built stronger. Eliab and Adriel stood at the forefront, their spirits linked, channeling their combined light. Look at us, Joram. Eliab called, voice resonating with compassion. We've all fallen. Have you forgotten the dreams that bring us together? With each heartbeat, as the shadows loomed large, the memory of shared moments, a campfire's glow, warriors bonding in laughter fueled the strength of their light. Joram wavered, a flicker of recognition crossing his features. Was it hope? Was it the ghost of forgotten bonds? But then, the darkness surged, threatening to drown that flicker. Stay strong. Adriel shouted, arms reaching toward Joram. We can pull you back. We can find the way together. That moment hung in the air like dew awaiting dawn, until Joram's anguish twisted, and he roared again, shadows crackling. You think your hope can save me? I am beyond redemption. Then let us pull you from the edge. Eliab cried desperately. None of us are beyond redemption, Joram. Let us heal together, or we will all fall. As clouds surged and darkness enveloped them, Eliab felt the air thrum with a profound energy. A realization echoed in their hearts. This was more than a battle against shadows. Instead, it was a confrontation with their own divided spirits, a chance for unity eclipsing the fear of the past. Summoning every ounce of courage, Eliab hurled the shard toward Joram. It sailed forward, glowing brilliantly as it penetrated the dark storm. The light burst forth, tearing away the tumultuous shadows, illuminating the battlefield with warmth and possibility. Remember. Eliab urged, as the shard's radiance wrapped around Joram, pulling at the darkness tethered to him. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in outrage. But within that blinding light, Eliab caught a glimpse of the boy he used to know. Joram. He implored. You are not just the anger. You are the brother we have fought for. You are more than your fears. Cacophonous rumbles vibrated through the ground, discordant against the rising chorus of hope fueled by their unity. And in that moment of truth, Joram's face shifted from rage to uncertainty, eyes reflecting the golden glow, the warmth of brotherhood shining through the storm. Fight back, Joram. Adriel yelled, stepping closer. Fight back against the shadows. We believe in you. With a resounding roar, Joram's conflicted cry echoed across the valley. No. I cannot, but Eliab stepped forward, gripping his shoulder. You can. We're all with you. And then miraculously a brilliant light erupted, piercing through the layers of darkness, consuming them in its warmth. Shadows howled and twisted, corroding under the ethereal glow as Joram struggled against the weight of despair. No. He cried, voice trembling. Help. I can't. But as the light began to swirl around him, Joram's form merged with the light, shadows dissipating like a mist before the dawn. Eliab felt the air shift, the heaviness lifting. Embrace the light, Joram. Embrace us. He shouted. A moment later, the darkness fractured as the light surged forth, wrapping around Joram, banishing every shred of despair. And just like that, there he stood, awash in golden radiance as if the storm had been washed away. Joram began, looking around him, eyes shining with wonder and disbelief. I remember the battlefield, once filled with strife and uncertainty, now resonated with relief, a collective sigh echoing around them. Cheers erupted, the sound reverberating across the trembling ground. We did it. We did it together. Adriel shouted, shoulders dropping as relief flooded through him. In the aftermath, as the storm clouds faded from the sky to reveal a lingering beauty, Eliab turned to Joram, heart full. We're brothers again. We have a chance to rebuild, to heal together. Yes, Joram breathed, the weight of their shared hardship and newfound hope resonating between them. Together. And as the warriors embraced, a future unspooled before them, vibrant and bursting with possibility, the echoes of the past folded gently into their new reality, with the sun breaking free at last, the unity shared that day became a beacon for generations to come. They had faced their darkest hour, yet, together, they had forged a brighter path forward, the kind of bond no tempest could ever conquer. So now, as they looked to the horizon, the healing began in earnest, a promise that love and understanding would always triumph over discord. Now this is the moment for you to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this powerful ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is what drives this community. We're all in this together.